No one lays down the law like Car and Key. This is the Law Report on SAFM.
And a very good evening to you from tonight's Law Report program. Well, as you know, once a month here on the Law Report, we run a legal clinic trying to answer a range of questions on a number of different topics. And tonight it's again time to open the lines for you to ask that particular legal question that doesn't quite fit into the other topics we discuss here on the Law Report. And I'm joined once again this evening by attorney Nicoline Skuman-Low, and she's a director of Skuman Law Inc., Attorneys, Conveyancers and Notaries Public, practicing here in Cape Town. Nicoline, good evening. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much.
Well, if you have any questions for us, and it can be on anything except for labour law and property law, those are the two areas that we have specialists that come in once a month to talk about. So we don't deal with those two things when Nicoline's here. But anything else, you can call us on 0892 10 2010, 0892 10 2010.
The 9th SABC Crown Gospel Music Awards are here. Come join us at Durban ICC on the 27th of November and witness the crowning of kings and queens of gospel music from South Africa and beyond. The dazzling red carpet starts at 4:30 and the show starts at 6 p.m. Don't be left out. Call 031-303-3520. The 9th SABC Crown Gospel Music Awards, brought to you by the World Gospel Powerhouse.
Tickets are now available at CompuTicket and ShopRite Checkers.
There's no topic too hot for us to handle. SAFM, keeping the temperature soaring all summer. No one lays down the law like Car and Key. This is the Law Report on SAFM.
Right, back with our law clinic, and if you have any questions, 0892 10 2010. You can call in now and leave your name and number with my producer, and we'll call you back. And please don't wait until the last minute, because every Monday when we do the Law Report, we always end up with so many calls at the end, and then I feel so bad because we can't get you all onto the show. So if you have a question, rather call in early rather than later. Before we get to any calls, we've got a few emails this evening, so we're going to get just 4 of them. We're going to get through those quickly. The first one says, kindly advise who can help me with errors made on my divorce decree by the presiding judge. How can that order be amended?
Well, orders of court, regardless of where the error originates, can be amended in terms of the court rules, which essentially means that you'll have to enroll the matter for hearing again and request an amendment and based on whichever basis you want the amendment to be made. Obviously, if there is some record of the order that had to be made by the judge in question, then you could simply request possibly in chambers or get an attorney to assist in requesting the amendment in chambers, or to see the registrar who could, in some instances, if the error is fairly cosmetic, could affect the amendment that way, as opposed to a full new application detailing the amendment. So it depends essentially what type of error we're talking about, if it's more of a cosmetic error, a typo in other words, or if it's more of a substantial error, and whether there is any records that could substantiate that the error was indeed that of the presiding officers.
Now, if it was that of the presiding officer, it would kind of aggravate me just a bit if I had to go back to court and incur further costs. Can you claim back for costs if it was a judge's error?
Unfortunately not. It depends on the record, So if you were represented by an attorney, it would be best to go back to that attorney and to ask them to have it remedied, probably in chambers or through the more internal channels, if I can call it that. And that way it wouldn't incur further costs.
Okay, because I just don't think that would be quite fair if it wasn't your fault, it was somebody else's fault.
I mean,
and
your attorney may charge, but it would depend between the arrangements between you and your attorney. But overall, it depends. If it's a fairly complex error, then an application to amend may be necessary. What often happens is, if you are represented, regardless of why you have gone to court, attorneys would generally draft the orders themselves. So if there are errors, then it's most likely that, traces back to the person who drafted, as we call it, the draft order, which is essentially just hand up in court and say, please just affix your seal of approval, presiding officer. So it depends how exactly and what all the circumstances are regarding this error to really trace back where it came from. If it's a draft order that was pre-populated, in other words, before you got to court, then it's probably your attorney's fault and not the presiding officer.
Because he asks who can help him, and it is quite obviously it is something that can be done.
Yes.
But you'd need to go back to the attorney that assisted you in the first place.
Yes, essentially.
Okay, so it's not something that's an impossible mountain to climb. It is.
No, definitely
Might be a
not.
bit of a struggle up the mountain in certain cases, but it is something that can be remedied.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Right, if you have any questions, we've got 3 more emails to go. You can call us now, 0892 10 20 10. Right, the next one. It's a rather complicated one, and the listener says that they worked for the city of Joburg as a librarian from 2007 to March 2016, and around October 2009 got arrested at work for theft charges laid by my employer. And attended my case at the Randburg court, won the case on the 16th of February 2011. The witness was my former supervisor, and a security officer in court was represented by a certain attorney. After the criminal case, he advised him, the listener, then to meet with a civil lawyer, and they met at the Randburg Library. And since 2012, he says, I don't know what's going on with my case, because I've heard from the attorney that the attorney that he was working for, the firm has now informed him that attorney's left the firm and he should now speak to somebody else. But since he left my file up to date, the second attorney, or the first attorney, he seems disinterested. I've tried a couple of lawyers for help, but they all referred me to the Law Society, which I went to on the 8th of July 2016. I filled in a complaint form, but up till now have had no response. He's also tried yet another firm of attorneys who referred him to somebody else at the Northern Province Law Society, and she hasn't responded either since July. And he says, I have paid my former lawyer for their services. But what he now wants to know is, what should he do? Should he now try yet another lawyer, or should he wait and hear from the Law Society? Because, I mean, he did this in July. It's now November.
Yeah, the law societies in any province in the country receives a lot of complaints on any given day. So the complaints, in my experience, do take some time to resolve, and by some time I mean a few months. It's not resolved in a week or 2 weeks' time. So firstly, I would recommend do continue pursuing the matter through the Law Society. What the Law Society usually does is they receive a complaint, it gets processed, they acknowledge receipt of the complaint, then they send it to the attorney to give them a chance to respond to the complaint. And if they can't get hold of that attorney, similarly to the listener, then it would delay the matter. So there could be a fairly reasonable explanation, but the listener could try and speak to the disciplinary department within the Law Society, or someone who deals with that. In the alternative, you can also approach the Fidelity Fund, but I'm a bit concerned about time here. I mean, some of this traces back more than 3 years.
But it's not his fault.
Fair enough, it's not his fault, but the 3-year time period will still run.
It's going to prescribe.
It probably has already. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but what the listener could do is to still approach the Fidelity Fund, the attorney's Fidelity Fund. It's a structure at the moment. There will be changes in the near future, but that runs separately from the Law Society. They do support one another and they do collaborate, but it's a different statutory structure. So, and they would be able to, if you wish to claim against your former attorney, they would be able to assist in that claim. But they've got very stringent time periods from the time that you want to lay this complaint to date. So I would strongly recommend that the listener seeks legal advice through, in other words, hire another attorney and pursues the alternative of potentially going to the Fidelity Fund, or just acting against their attorney for, due to prescription of their claim against the original person they were wanting to claim.
But what fascinated me was he went to another attorney, and those attorneys actually referred him to the Law Society. So, I mean, they didn't even want to help him by all accounts.
Yeah, probably not on a pro bono basis. No.
Pro bono, okay, yeah, I suppose not.
So, unfortunately, it seems that the only recourse would be if you cannot afford the legal services of an attorney that the listener would be paying, then potentially to approach legal aid if he qualifies, or one of the legal clinics at the universities. That could also be an option. So there are structures with free legal advice, but time is of the essence.
There's also an organization called probono.org, which you can actually
Yes.
find on the internet and possibly get in touch with them and see if they can give you some advice as well.
So, but whatever is done now, it needs to be done with haste due to the prescription period that is, if it hasn't run out yet, it is very close to.
Okay, right. Okay, so there are some avenues that they can follow up here. Right. Excuse me. The next one says, my small company was recommended by a government department for capacity support in a new program. We were then contacted by a capacity support company for a year, but we started without contracts. As a result, 68% of the contract value was controlled by the mentor against the contract. Since we were new, we were not VAT registered or UIF, therefore we paid VAT exclusive. We registered using our contracts, therefore expected to pay VAT from day one to date. In the 68% controlled by the mentor, salary was also part of that, and there are deductions of the UIF, PAYE, but they were never paid to labour. VAT was also deducted even when my company was later registered for both VAT, SDL and UIF. It was never paid to SARS up to now. SARS is on our back and the mentor is nowhere to be found. In fact, he's telling us that he has no contract with my company. The municipality says go to court. We have no contract with you. We owe more than 200,000 Rand to SARS. What do we do with the situation? Please advise. That is just horrendous.
That is absolutely horrible. Well, obviously, we need to establish who represented the entity. So from a SARS perspective, when you register for e-filing or to pay taxes as a taxpayer, in other words, if you register your entity as a taxpayer, then someone would represent the entity and therefore be personally responsible for making sure that all the compliance for SARS has been maintained. So the first point of call would be to see who was the representative for the entity. That's the first point. And if it was this mentor, then of course that can be used in order to pursue this person in their personal capacity. I hear that it was a capacity support program. Maybe if the listener has some documentation, I see there's no reference to a contract really.
But it was recommended by a government department. They were put in touch with us. I mean, there must be some form of document, if not a contract, which they can use to prove the legal relationship, and then potentially act against this person who has misled them. So I would recommend that they seek legal advice as a matter of urgency, and someone who specializes in tax law. Because also the UIF that hasn't gone to the Labour Department either. So.
Yes, so it would be in the eyes of both the Department of Labour as well as SARS, the entity remains responsible, and the person who's acting for the entity together with the entity remains responsible. Regardless of your own internal arrangements, we often see bookkeepers and accountants, for example, also not filing the required returns and not paying the monies over. And by the time you realize this, that person is long gone and you've got this massive debt with SARS. So if all else fails, unfortunately, very expensive school fees, but in the eyes of SARS, they'll knock on your door, as that's together with the Department of Labour. So I would really suggest that this company, I see that they are still small, that you get some legal advice, and if all else fails, it's this person is well versed in tax law and labor law, so that they can approach the relevant departments and make arrangements if you need to pay the money back in installments.
That's awful, because you've already paid it once. Now you've got to do it again, which is
absolutely just awful.
Not good. And I would imagine they should actually report to whoever this company, the support company, capacity support company,
I would
to the government department that recommended it, because they're obviously recommending them to small businesses. And now, how many others have they taken for a ride?
Of course, and what is more is it seems that it could even be a triple BE support initiative, enterprise development initiative. We can't say that for sure, but it does sound like it. And if that is the case, and this person has engaged in any unlawful conduct in terms of the new BEE regulations, then that person could also be reported potentially to the BEE Commissioner.
Okay, so the first step is to get hold of SARS and to find out the name of the person on the tax returns of this company.
Yes.
And will SARS give you that information? I'm assuming they would give it to a lawyer, not to you?
They would give it to you as well. If you have some form of proof that you have authority to ask for the information. So if the company could maybe give you a resolution or a power of attorney saying that you are allowed to ask for this personal information of theirs, then you can most certainly find out who was the listed responsible person on SARS's side, so that you can then prepare your case and go seek legal advice and see how you can actually A, deal with this most effectively, and B, report this guy.
Okay, now I'm not mentioning the name of the listener, but listener, you know who you are. Please deal with this as soon as you possibly can, because this is now something that you can't let people like us get away with it. It just really
and the
bothers me.
repercussions from SARS side
for you
is
are
very,
really,
very serious.
Yeah, they're not good. And you're the one that didn't do anything wrong, but you're the one that's going to end up with a problem. So
yes, definitely.
You need to I always say, rather speak to them before they speak to you. You know, rather you approach them and say, look, this is the story, before they come knocking on your door.
Definitely.
Rather go and speak to them first. Right, we've got one more email left. We're going to be taking calls in a moment. So if you have any questions, 0892 10 2010, 0892 10 2010.
Great movies coming your way this weekend on SABC3. Cuba Gooding Jr. gives his son the ultimate summer experience in Daddy Day Camp. And Al Pacino is into doctor-assisted suicide in You Don't Know Jack. A farm girl makes a new friend in The Little Unicorn. And there's a fresh take on a classic tale with Jim Caviezel as the Count of Monte Cristo. A dazzling diversity of marvelous movies coming your way Saturday at 7 and 9 p.m. and Sunday at 2:30 and 7 p.m. only on SABC3.
Of all of South Africa's precious resources, our Bill of Rights is the most valuable one. Defend the Constitution, defend your rights. SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. No one lays down the law like Karen Key. This is the Law Report on SAFM.
Right, back with our law clinic. And the last of our email questions says, the issue of usufruct confuses me. Could you perhaps tell me what it entails for me to get usufruct over a property? I would like it to be granted to me by my brother, for him to thereby allow me full usage of the family home owned by him but never used by him, as he is permanently overseas. Is it a lengthy exercise, and does it involve the embassy? Now, let's just first of all go into what usufruct is.
Usufruct is a limited real right that can be registered against the property. So the fact that it's a limited right means that you don't have full ownership and full use and enjoyment and control over a property. In other words, you can't just decide to sell it or alienate it without the permission of the usufructuary, which is the usufructuary is the person who owns the usufruct, and then the bare dominium holder is the person who holds full title to the property. So it's basically it gives you certain rights, a limited right in terms of being able to enjoy the property, to stay in the property, and to enjoy any fruits thereof. So maybe in an agricultural sense, you would often see that a farmland would be left to the eldest son in maybe a very traditional sense, and then the surviving spouse would have a lifelong usufruct over the property, meaning that there's then an annuity income that is generated by putting the property to work or use, and that essentially sustains the surviving spouse until his or her death, and then it full, free, unencumbered ownership passes to the eldest son. So that's a typical example of a usufruct. So how do you go about getting one?
I always thought that was the only way that usufruct operated, was if somebody died and left a property, for example. But this is a living relative, and he wants to now use this property because the relative is overseas permanently.
It is more common in a estate planning sense, or in a bequest sense in terms of a deceased estate. I think from a traditional background, that's where you would see it the most. However, these days, it's an agreement that you enter into. So all you have to do is to have the property endorsed to that effect within the deeds office. And remember that the minute you do that, you change the associated rights and financial implications associated with the property from a SARS perspective. So they'll obviously see the usufructuary, the person having the usufruct, gaining an advantage that they didn't have previously, and the bare dominium holder, in other words, the person holding title to the property, would be giving something. So it depends how you structure this. Yes, exactly. It depends how you structure this. Are you going to structure it as a sale or a donation, or then a donation mortis causa, in other words, a donation after death, in a will, in other words. So it depends how you intend to structure this, because there will be tax implications.
But this is a living sibling wanting to use the other sibling's house. So this is now going to have tax implications for both of them if they do a usufruct.
Yes, it will.
Even though they're not really donating anything, he just wants to use it.
Exactly, because you are technically slicing a top layer of the cake off, and you're parking it somewhere, or lending or giving. And the usufructuary would have the right to potentially rent out the property for money, and would be able to enjoy the fruits thereof. In the same way as it would have been in the traditional agricultural sense. So there's a potential for income generation, and that's what this is about. And that portion of the rights is separated then from the current status quo, and that's why there'll be a financial implication, a tax implication. So you need to structure this very carefully. You can't just do this in an informal, gentlemen, let's shake hands on it way. You need to get an attorney involved that is well versed in tax law as well as property law. Put the agreement together as most effectively as possible, and then have it endorsed in the deeds office.
And there's no embassy involved. He says, does it involve the embassy? Because his brother is overseas.
Obviously, if documents need to be signed for deeds office purposes, and you're signing it outside of South Africa, then you'll have to go to a notary public in the country that you find yourself in, sign the document there, maybe even have it further authenticated by affixing an apostille certificate or further authentication certificate, and then couriering it in the original back here.
So it's not specifically an embassy, but a notary public, like you would do here.
Yes.
For something.
Similarly, if you have to sign something here that needs to go overseas, there's a process to ensure that it is you that signed that document, and so on. So, no, I can't see how the embassy would be involved.
But it could be a relatively, not definitely a lengthy exercise, but it's not a
5-minute
thing.
No, it needs to. There are other ways of it. It depends what the listener and his or her brother is trying to achieve. So it depends. There may be better ways of achieving the same outcome with less tax implications. So best to get some advice and to really share what exactly you are trying to do.
A property attorney.
Property and tax specialist.
Property and tax specialist. Right, so I hope that was helpful. It's a lot more complicated than I originally thought it was going to be. But anyway, there you go. Right, we've got some calls on the line all coming up now. So if you have any questions, 0892 10 20 10. Temba in Pedi, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Hello, how can we help you, Temba?
Yes. I've got an insurance. I bought a house. Okay. I've got an insurance with this company. This insurance is saying it's a legal insurance. It is one of the principles is that if I'm buying a house, they will pay for the transfer. I mistakenly was not aware of the time period to claim those transfers. Then when I approached them, they said, no, the time has lapsed. 3 months has lapsed. I should have done that within 3 months. But my point now from a legal perspective is that even if I claimed within 3 months or after 3 months, there's nothing peculiar. There's nothing that would make a difference from their side in terms of maybe costs going up and so on, or they would have evaluated something. So I understand now I missed up an important clause. So I just want to know from the legal perspective, shouldn't I be getting this assistance?
Do you have a contract with them, Temba? Have you read what is
Yes,
this? What is this? What does it say?
Insurance contract.
What does it say? Does it specifically mention the 3 months in there?
Yeah.
It does.
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, all insurance products, regardless of whether it is car insurance or household insurance or legal insurance, it's all based on the same principle, that it's a contract that you enter into with the insurance company. And unfortunately, many of us do not read these policy documents when we sign up for these services. And if it's listed in there as a term that you have to claim within 3 months of a service, then unfortunately it can't really be overturned.
Can I just ask one question? Aren't they supposed to explain this to you as well as giving you the contract?
Of course, at the sign-up process, then yes, you need to be aware, and in terms of the Consumer Protection Act, you need to be made aware of any specific terms. So if it is a contract that you entered into since the enactment of the Consumer Protection Act, remember there was a window period for the insurers to align themselves and their own legislation to the spirit of the Consumer Protection Act, and that was in 2013, 2014. So if this contract was taken out in that period, then you could potentially rely on an argument of saying, but you should have explained this to me, even though it is in the documentation.
When did you take out this contract, September?
Okay, no, I took it a long time ago. About 2000 and something, 3 or 5, somewhere there. But my point, which I need to be explained for, is in my little understanding of law, is that if you put this stipulation that if you are late, then we will not. The question is, what repercussions from your side as the insurer would happen if I had claimed within 3 months versus claiming after 3 months? Which is my argument, is that it seems this is just a stipulation to catch people, because there's nothing that will happen in terms of the cost. If they were committed to give me this money, I pay my premium every month. If they are committed to help me, because I pay every month. And I think even that 3 months, it's immaterial, because I would claim the same in 3 months, even in 6 months, I claim the same month. Thank you.
Yeah, Timber, I've heard some stories recently about people who've had, this is a different kind of insurance, but people who've had motor vehicle insurance, they've had an accident, and then when they've claimed, it's then turned out that their license disc had expired like the month before. And the insurance companies won't pay out because they say you're driving an unlicensed vehicle. They are not if you've signed a contract that you will abide by their rules or whatever, even though you're paying your premiums every month and you do one little thing, they don't have to pay you out. I would imagine it's the same sort of thing.
Same sort of thing. And unfortunately, I think we need to look at this from a more holistic perspective, that from the insurer's perspective, they need to really stretch their rand. They are getting a fixed amount of premiums paid to them, and they need to pay any claims from that pool of money. That's the principle of insurance. And they need to make sure that they stay liquid, that they can afford to pay out in the unlikely but a possible event that all their members were to institute substantial claims at the same time. So they are often having to balance, getting in the money, making sure that they are liquid themselves, and then of course making out paying out any claims that they may receive. So it's a difficult thing, and often,
It doesn't seem fair a lot of the time.
Often it doesn't seem fair, but a contract is a contract, and it's a fundamental principle of law that contracts should be enforced.
I understand Temba's point that if I didn't claim within the 3 months and I claimed in month 4 or 5 or something,
Fair
now
enough.
they won't pay me out. That's really not what impact is it having on the insurance company?
No,
I mean, it's like a month
completely
late.
agree.
I fully understand where it's coming from, but sadly, that's the way insurance companies work. If you sign the
Unfortunately.
contract, they can hold you
But
to it.
maybe it's worth some time to explore, and for the listener to possibly approach the ombudsman,
The short-term insurance
yes,
ombudsman.
short-term insurance ombudsman, and here maybe he can make a recommendation, and maybe there is some recourse.
Maybe there is something. Temba, if you would like to, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an email address, Temba?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to put you back to my producer now. Give him your email address, and I will send you the information for the short-term insurance ombud, and you can maybe get hold of them and see whether they can perhaps help you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Temba, hold the line. Thanks a lot for getting through. Good night to you. Right, off to Durban. Ingram, good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. Nice show.
Thank
I
you.
wonder if you could help me.
We'll try.
3 years ago, I became visually impaired, but I had a credit card with a certain bank and a personal loan with them. And then I gave them all my documents from the hospital, the report that I'm visually impaired. I've been put on permanent disability. And they keep phoning me from call centers, requesting payment on the account. And I keep sending them those documents that the doctors have given me and the hospital has given me as proof that I'm now have become disabled. And every time it's like people from different call centers phoning me to recover this money.
When
I wonder
did
if you can help me.
when was this, Ingram?
The whole thing, maybe about 2.5 years ago, that I had this personal loan and a credit card, and all of a sudden I became visually impaired.
Have they issued a summons?
No, ma'am, they didn't.
Well, then you've got 6 months to go, it would seem. And you haven't made any payments after the two.
Because it covered me for if I had, because the personal loan and the
Yes.
credit card covered me for disability.
Yes.
So I gave them these documents, and then I think there was a refuted claim. There was something wrong with the termination date of when I used to work, when I was working, or when I have taken out loan and the credit card. I was working at the time.
Okay, so you had insurance on both of those things to cover you in the event, and that's what the problem is. The insurance hasn't paid out from both of those products.
Yes, to settle that.
Oh, right,
credit
okay.
card, yes, and the personal loan.
And
So
it's
the
been
bank sent me a letter, and I still got those letters that they corresponded with me. But I think the issue was that I took my time because I became visually impaired, and I had to go through. I think I was scheduled 2 options within the 2 years, so I couldn't get around, because I became limited to my movement.
Well, this is again something that could potentially be referred to the long-term insurance ombudsman. This is a different type of insurance to, for example, car and household insurance. So I would recommend that that you get someone to assist you in completing the complaints forms, so that the ombud can investigate why this is taking so long. This is most certainly not a usual circumstance for such a claim to take so long to process. That would be the first point of call. Unfortunately, the banks themselves rarely connect with these insurance products, even though they are often the ones to sell you these products as
But
part
they
of.
are making correspondence with me maybe on a monthly basis. And I keep telling the guys on the other side of
Now, these guys, what I'm trying to say is they actually don't talk to each other. I know that probably when you receive the loan, the bank or the financial institution actually recommended, and often they do recommend these insurance products as an add-on to their
But it's not a
service.
bank's insurance product.
Okay,
Yes.
what I would appreciate, I'm thinking to approach the banking.
Yes.
Yes.
But I don't have any details because I'm in Durban and I don't have access to like email and stuff like that because of my impairment.
Yes.
Okay, now Ingram, how can we get in touch with you with this information? Obviously, we've got a cell phone number you called in on now.
Yes, ma'am.
And
If you can
if I
SMS it
well, I'm
to me.
saying if I SMS it, would somebody be able to read it for you?
Yes. But
Okay.
it must be Durban-based, Umbaz, close because I'm in the Durban area.
Okay, I will get all that information for you during the course of tomorrow, probably by tomorrow afternoon, because I'm busy in the morning, but in the afternoon I will take the time and try and tap out with two fingers because I'm not very good at SMSing. I will send you that information for the long-term ombud as well, for the insurance, and also the banking ombud.
And
I really appreciate
And
it.
they
because I
don't
need
have
closure.
to. Okay, but Nicola, they don't have to be in Durban. I mean, you can correspond with them wherever they are in the country. I mean, I think they're
they've
based
got
in Joburg.
They've
actually.
got both of
The
them
problem
have
is that
central
I'm so
offices.
limited with
Yeah.
my devices now. I'm still trying to readapt now.
Okay,
I
but
can imagine.
I think they're probably based in Johannesburg.
Yeah,
And
so
but
someone will have to print a form for you and help you to complete the form and then send it back to them.
because it can all be done electronically. It's just that I think their offices are based in Johannesburg.
Okay, that would be great.
But I'll send you all that information tomorrow, Ingram.
And I
Thank
think
you so much, ma'am.
be sure to cross-reference your
No,
complaints.
but
So in
what
other
I've
words,
done,
if
all
you-
those documents that I've been forwarding to them on a constant,
Yes.
whenever they request it,
Yes.
I got it with me.
Yes, but when you institute the complaints for both the long-term insurance ombud as well as the banking ombud, tell the banking ombud that you've already instituted a claim with the long-term insurance ombud and vice versa.
So just that both of them know that you're
Yes.
dealing with each other.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, good luck with that, Ingram. That sounds terrible that they make you wait so long.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks
Good
for the
luck.
call. Thanks. Good night to you. Right, we don't have too much time left. We've got about 15 minutes. So if you've got any questions, 0892 10 20 10. Chape and Mafakeng, good evening.
Good evening, Green. How are you?
Hello, very well, and you?
I'm okay, sir.
How can we help you, Chape?
Yeah, I've got two small questions here.
Okay,
The first one, I'm asking these questions on behalf of my mother.
okay,
My mother is 85 years old. She's a pensioner. And my father just, I could say, deserted her. They married in community of property in 1949. My mother was 18 at that time, and she was just not aware what was happening. So my father, the first question is my father, when my father got pension, my mother never benefited anything from that pension. As opposed to, I don't know whether if it's out of community of anti-natural, you don't benefit, but if it's in community of property, you benefit. That's the first question I want to know. The second one is the maintenance one. He doesn't maintain her. And she's a pensioner, she's 85, she's sickly. She can't even go to the private doctor because she gets about 1.5. It's for food, for medication, for maintaining the house because he is not there. But she's not allowed to do anything to change whatever she wants in the house. So he still controls, but he does not maintain. So I'm living with her at the moment at home. So I'm also a pensioner. So it's a bit heavy for her because then we both rely on pension. So my question is, what advice could you give us? Should we approach an attorney to help us with this? Is it a legitimate complaint or what?
Well, this is definitely a family law matter. So yes, off the cuff, you do need to seek legal advice, I would say, from a family law specialist. There's a number of recourses that you could look at. Firstly, in regards to the pension, yes, if you are married in community of property, both parties jointly own everything that there is in the estate. So if the pension money comes in, then of course it's for joint benefit. In the case of a divorce, then of course there would be an automatic split to both spouses as well, and that could be paid out, but one thing at a time. So if it's not a question of wanting to go through a divorce procedure, which I'm not hearing from what you are saying, then it could potentially be something that you could address via the domestic violence provisions. In that there could be an element of financial abuse, because you say that there isn't any maintenance, that he's not paying for certain things and so on. He's not sharing any of the money. So you could, a family law specialist would know exactly how to go about approaching court potentially for an order to maintain her. But she's definitely, as a spouse, you inherently have the right to be of the right of or the duty of maintenance. If you're looking at the breadwinner has a duty to maintain his spouse. So it's something that he can definitely not argue against. It's an inherent right. So she definitely does have recourse, and I would recommend that you seek the advice of a family law specialist sooner rather than later.
Now, I would imagine as well, Chape, that this would be something that it would be an expensive exercise, which your mom would find it difficult to pay for. So we're looking now for pro bono attorneys here.
Yes, potentially. That would be first prize.
Come again?
You would need to find what they call a pro bono attorney. So in other words, they don't charge you.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if you go to a private family law attorney, it could end up costing you a lot of money.
Okay.
And I don't think your mom would be happy about that.
Yeah, no.
And you're in Mafeking, so are there universities close by to you?
It is, yeah.
Because they normally have a law clinic at the university.
They do have, yes.
They should be able to help you. That's the kind of work that they do there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you need to approach them on behalf or on behalf of your mom and just tell them the story, and they should be able to assist you.
Okay. So which means that is the cheapest way to do it, not seeking an attorney to do that.
Yes, but the law clinic, they are attorneys at the law clinic at the university.
Okay.
But they have a special, because they're student attorneys, I'm assuming.
Yes, usually it's student attorneys, and they are usually they are monitored, or someone oversees their work.
A qualified attorney does look over what they're doing.
Otherwise, if that's too far away, the legal aid clinic could also assist. There are legal aid clinics all over the country. Or then you could contact the local law society in the area for a pro bono attorney. So see whoever can help you the quickest.
Do you have an email address, Chape? Do you have an email?
I'll be able to contact those. I'm not clear on the anti-nuptial contract issue there.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you explained in community of property what should happen, that I understand.
How are they married?
When it comes to an internuptial contract, in this position of my mother, where she's not benefiting anything from the pensions whilst my father was working, and she's been a housewife ever since.
You see, I think we need to distinguish between two concepts. The institution of marriage automatically is a contract outside of whether it's in or out of community of property for a minute. It's a contract between two people wherein they undertake to maintain and support each other financially and emotionally. So it means that the breadwinner, regardless of how you are married, must maintain the stay-at-home spouse or the homemaker, in other words. There's an inherent duty on that person. So in the case that you're married in community of property, then it's a split right down the middle, that you own 50-50 of each, whatever the other person brings into the marriage. So it's a strict 50-50 split. With out of community of property, what is mine and what is yours, but you still have the duty to support the homemaker.
The spouse.
Yes.
Yep. No, it's understood.
So now the case of now, your parents are married by antenuptial contract. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, but they're not divorced or anything.
No, they're not.
Okay, so even though they're not
Duty of
divorced,
support.
he's still it's her right to be supported by him.
Yes, and there could be an element of abuse that you would have to. I know it's an uncomfortable topic, but there could be an element that you have to explore and potentially.
It is. And it's very difficult. You know how our parents are. You know, to try to intervene. You know,
It's
sometimes
difficult.
you find the mother say, "No, just please leave your father. It's your father." But I think she has reached a stage now where she's prepared to take it because she can't support herself right now. The little money she gets from state pension, it's not enough. If I were not there, she definitely not survive. I mean, she has to paint the house to do the paint alone that she uses to paint the outside, not the rooms. It costs her over 800 rand.
Oh, goodness.
That's more than 3/4 of her pension she gets a month.
Yeah, no, that's definitely too
It's
much.
Very
So,
sad. It's very sad.
It is very sad.
so I think go and get some legal advice on how to even things out fairly.
Okay.
But there's definitely recourse. Good luck.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good luck, Hape.
Good night.
Good night to you. Bye-bye now. That's actually so sad. His mom's, 85 now? You don't need to have all this drama at 85. It's supposed to be a restful time. Not all this drama going on. Well, I hope Hape can get that sorted out. Doesn't sound like a good thing. Mary in Soweto, good evening.
Evening.
Hello, how can we help you, Mary?
Will you please help us? We've got a company, and we got a contract from last year. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, April last year. And then we work with Josie at work. So for the whole 12 months, we just get April, May. Then after that, we didn't get any pay up to the end of the contract. If we go pillar to post from Pick It Up to City of Joburg, we didn't get any money up to now. So what I want to know, the mentor is got a power to twist our company to other people, and yet the City of Joburg is paying the mentor. And the problem is the SARS, SAR, they want their money from us. And yet we haven't got even a money to buy a bread because it's our company. Ne? So I just want to know, the mentor is got a power more than City of Joburg.
Mary, I don't know if you were listening to the program earlier, but right at the very beginning of the program, we had a story identical, exactly the same as you. Also a small business, also contracted to a capacity support company, same story. Absolutely. This is not, I can't believe it's the second one in one show.
Goodness, I think this is something that needs to be reported. Not.
You know what, my sister, it's very painful.
It's terrible. This is the second one we've heard of tonight.
We just want a help. Where are we going to get help? Because we're going to pillar to post City of Joburg, UBC, whatever. We want our money. We can't get our money because one of the lady in City of Joburg, he told us we can't report the mentor because it's so big. But what I know, there is nobody who is above the law.
No, they're sitting with the
definitely.
same SARS problem that the other listener was having.
Definitely. Well, I was going to suggest that you have to report this person.
Why the city of Joburg can't help us? Because we've got a contract with them.
Yes.
They said they can't put their nose in our problem because we've got a contract from the mentor.
Well, where do we even tell
these?
these?
Confused. It's painful. It's end of the year. We can't get even. We're going to get a Black Christmas as last year.
What do we do? I mean, I'm actually feeling quite desperate now.
No, well, obviously the mentors needs to be reported.
Who do you report them to? Because the cities of Joburg's not helping them. This is now the second one we've had in the show today. Same
we
thing.
definitely need to see how.
Just hang on,
We're going to report where.
Yeah, that's
where,
what
where
Mary, just hold on a second. Where would Mary report this?
Well, you could obviously, if you can prove that the money has been paid to the mentor and they haven't paid you, then you could potentially, it remains a civil case unless there's been fraud of some sort.
Wouldn't that be considered fraud, though?
Well, it depends how the contract was structured. Many of these contracts are structured in such a way that the government institution contracts with the small company, but they channel the money through this mentor. So the mentor is the guy that actually has to make the payment. So it becomes a very complicated type of legal relationship. So you need to, an attorney needs to look at how this specific one has been constructed. Someone who's got experience in state.
Because we told the last one to go to a tax and whatever else was attorney. I mean, they're also having issues with SARS.
Yes, there's one element which is this issue with this mentor, and how to really keep that person accountable and to report them appropriately to whichever institution. Then you've got the element of SARS wanting their money, and you need to deal with that as well. So it's potentially two separate attorneys that need to be working together. If this is the same government department, the first listener reported that it's the city of Joburg, then
we don't know. He didn't actually say that.
Potentially there could be a class action.
That's what I was about to
say. I would recommend maybe that that we connect them together. I don't know, Karen.
Mary.
Hello. I'm listening.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have an email address that we can email you?
Yes, I've got.
I tell you why. Because what Nicolene has now suggested was because we had a listener earlier on in the program with exactly the same problem as you. Exactly the same. And Nicolene suggested that we put you and this other listener in touch with each other. And if you can find more people like you that are having this problem, you can institute what they call a class action suit. But you need a few people together with the same problem. And then you've got more power.
Yes. Yes.
And so would you be happy if you gave my producer now your email address and we can put you in touch? Okay, so you just hold the line, Mary. I'm going to put you onto my producer now. He'll take your details and then I will speak to the other listener and just see whether he's happy to do that, and we'll put you in touch. And then maybe between the two of you, you can find other people as well, and you can get as many of you as possible together.
Yes.
Then you can.
We are so many because even our workers, they are waiting for their money from us. Yet we haven't got nothing.
There's nothing you can do. It's a terrible. It's horrendous. It's absolutely a terrible situation. And so I'm going to put you back.
Workers are waiting for us.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure you're waiting for the money too. I mean, it's not, this is ridiculous.
Myself, I'm waiting for money too.
No, this is really awful, Mary.
Even they try to threaten us to burn our houses.
No, that's ridiculous. Mary, hold the line. I'm going to put you back to my producer now. Give him your email address and I'll be in touch with you. Okay, hold the line, Mary. Okay, right. If there's anybody else out there that's in a similar situation, because I can't believe we've had two literally identical stories from two completely different people tonight. If you are sitting in the same situation, please drop me a mail to law@safm.co.za and we can put all of you in touch, because I think this is something we need to...
Then you need to approach an attorney in the area who could potentially deal with all of it. We've said that this person needs to have a skill set in tax. They also need to know a bit about labor law and how the Department of Labor payments work, and potentially someone who's worked with government tenders and government work before. So it's maybe a firm that has someone in each kind of department that can work together, but it's best if they could potentially launch a class action and split the costs.
Right. Okay. Gosh, well, rather shocking into the program. Sibongile and Enosh, I'm so sorry, but we've run out of time. And hopefully, if you want anything answered, just drop me a mail to law@safm.co.za and we'll see what we can do. Well, my thanks once again this evening to Nicoline Skumanlo. She's a director of Skuman Law Inc., attorneys, conveyancers and notaries public, and their practice here in Cape Town. She's been my guest on tonight's edition of the Law Report, and she'll be back with us on Monday, the 12th of December. Gosh, I can't believe it's almost Christmas. Nicoline, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you for having me as always.
And I'll be back with you again tomorrow evening, just after 9, with Health Matters. Next week, we're going to be having the director of the CCMA, Mr. Cameron Morahania, as well as attorney Michael Bagram. It's the Law Report next week. And Stephen Kirk is up now with some nighttime music. Hello, Stephen.